Welcome to the Small Town Big Arts Podcast. I'm Jeffrey Kirshner, the Director of MFA in Arts Leadership at Randolph College and an Associate Consultant with Ryan Ripperton Consulting. And this podcast is for the people doing the real work of keeping arts and culture alive in small towns and rural communities across America. We dig into the challenges, the wins, and the strategies that matter most for organizations just like yours. If you like what you hear, rate and review us, and most importantly, share with those working in the arts in small communities across the United States. Well, I'm really excited this month to introduce you to the Activate Rural Learning Lab that is a part of the Department of Public Transformation's set of programs that are pretty impressive for those who have heard and seen some of the resources from Department of Public Transformation on the Small Town Big Arts website. Know that home base is Minnesota for DOPT, but they're covering the Dakotas, Montana, but just most recently, they also supported some work that I was doing in Virginia. So recently, the Activate Rural Learning Lab's second cohort launched, and I was excited to see this and thought this might be an opportunity to showcase a different participant in the Learning Lab each month moving forward, and to learn a little bit about what folks are doing in Minnesota, the Dakotas, Montana, and in some really interesting ways in some really unique communities with really small populations. So today with me, I have the staff from Department of Public Transformation who are running the program. I've got Sarina, who's the founder of the Activate Rural Learning Lab, and Courtney, who's joining as staff, but most recently I just learned was in the previous cohort of the program, so is going to have a lot of unique takes to share with us on where the program has been and where it is going. I think to start, Sarina, I'm going to begin with you. Tell me a little bit about Activate Rural Learning Lab in a nutshell. What is it? How does it work?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for having us. The Activate Rural Learning Lab supports artists and community leaders that want to build creative gathering places for their communities. And that can look like a lot of different ways of doing it, lots of different types of projects to make that happen. And so for us, we created a program that can be really flexible and adaptable to different types of projects and even different phases that a lot of these different groups may be in when they implement or go on this journey, right, of like activating either it's an existing space, a lot of times it is an existing space. It could be a former church building, former traditional commercial building, and current like a gas station, whatever the places that they have in their community that they want to create, bring in artists, creativity, and then a place where people can gather and connect. And so we provide support, resources such as like workshops. We have a resource hub with a lot of like templates of things that we're learning as we develop our own creative gathering place in Granite Falls, Minnesota, called the Yes House. So a lot of what we're learning, developing our space as an organization, we're sharing through this program as well. And also funding. We provide funding through this program. So our first cohort received $25,000. This cohort is each receiving $50,000, and that's unrestricted funding for them to use to make their projects happen or to get them on that, on their way. So that's
That's
some of
really,
the resources that we provide.
that's really incredible. So tell me a little bit too about the genesis of this and founding it. What sparked it for you?
So I am just like the people that I support and work with. I started off in my home community of Granite Falls, Minnesota. I founded a cooperative public house. It serves it's a tap room that serves beer. It's a cafe style gathering space, also music venue. And when I started that process back in 2013, it was 5 years long, and it felt like a very lonely process for me as I was developing a gathering place in my own community. And I wish I had a program like Activate Rural so that I could be a part of a cohort and receive support and funding so I didn't have to start from scratch. And so I had this idea after working, I've been in the nonprofit world for a while and worked in the statewide Main Street program for Minnesota as well, and in historic preservation. And what I was seeing in small towns, like from my own experience, right, in my own community, but also seeing in other communities as I worked for my day job, that the power of one place can have the ripples that it can have on the entire community. So when I witnessed spaces that develop around the arts and artists coming together, I've um, I've only seen amazing things ripple out of that, like new projects. I've seen leaders come out of that run for, city council or economic development commissioners or whatever the case may be. And I wanted to make that happen or be that support for other communities as they are trying to develop these different spaces. And so that's where we came up when I met with Ash, who was just developing DOPT or starting out the organization, and they were working on the Yes House. And so we brought both of our experiences together to create Activate Rural.
I love that. Courtney, speaking of economic development, so you were previously a participant. So we're going to talk about the current cohort, but let's take a moment to reflect backwards and share a little bit with me about your cohort, how you came into it, what your experience was. Yeah, share a little bit there.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah. So um, started with DOPT last year in 2025. And previous to that, I was working for 10 years as a rural economic development director. I was a contractor with several different rural communities, all within my home region of Southeast Minnesota. But I was working as Spring Grove, Minnesota's economic development director. I previously worked in the arts before my 10-year stint in local government. And so I was very familiar with Sarina and Ash. Like we had met over a decade before, and I had followed their work. And so when I was working with Spring Grove, which is a very creative and a community that's really dedicated to the arts. And I saw this Activate Rural program come through my desk as EDA director. I immediately knew that I wanted to get the team together to apply for it. So what we did in the project that I worked on was the Spring Grove Cinema. We had a very interesting situation. A small town. When was the last time you heard of a small town who built a brand new movie theater after 2000? So a small town of like 1,200 people, but the locally owned telecommunications cooperative was really invested in the community and said, we really want to figure out how to bring more families to town, how to make downtown and Main Street more vibrant. What if we built a movie theater? And that was in 2008. And so they invested, built this brand new, gorgeous movie theater, one screen, but totally state of the art. And it was really successful for many, many years. And then the pandemic hit. And as we know, like the movie industry has totally changed. People are watching movies on Netflix. A one screen, there's a lot. I learned more than I ever cared to know about like the politics of working with large media companies and how they're not super good fits for small towns,
Yeah.
and just some of that. So anyway, we were trying to figure out how to make the cinema more usable so it wouldn't shut down. And so we used our Activate Rural participation to try to reimagine what the cinema was as like a community gathering space, an arts venue, an entrepreneurial incubator, a student union. And so we really experimented a lot, and it was yeah, a really great project and really great program to work on. And I'm lucky now to be on this side of it too, to be able to help and support others with the new cohort.
That's great. What with your own experience, what is carrying over? What maybe is being adapted in this new cohort from what you experienced there?
Mhm. Well, I think one of the things that a lot of small towns struggle with is just knowing how to take advantage of resources, but also having the confidence to do that. And, I think one of the things that we're really excited about for this next cohort is just giving them the confidence to be able to go out and do things, to ask for more money, to seek local investors, to try new programming. We were kind of just like sitting, twiddling our thumbs, thinking like, well, what if, what if, what if? But this program was great, from my own experience, to be able to have an accountability partner to say,
Mm,
yes, like you can go try things, and here's some ideas, and actually here's a little bit of funding, to make it happen, and to kind of take the edge off a little bit of like the risk
yeah.
of doing something new. And then I think the other thing that we offer that is really valuable, is just having the stamp of support from a national organization like DOPT on a small town project is really helpful when you're talking to your own local community members. Because if you have a city council that maybe doesn't really understand the value of art, or doesn't really understand the value of creating gathering places, saying, well, actually, we got funding and support from this national organization, and they're helping us to connect with other resources, it helps to really like make things more credible and paves the way for some of those bigger conversations moving forward.
That's excellent. Sarina, now moving, and this kind of applies to both cohorts, but the program itself, you went a little bit into, um, you know, a member of the cohort, what they're receiving when they move through the program. Um, Share a little bit. I mean, well, first, I think share all that they receive through the program. Let me start there. It's a 2-year progression that they move through. So tell me what happens over that 2 years. What happens through the program?
Yeah, so in that within that 2 years, we have a number of in-person gatherings. So we all start off with the first, we call it an in-person cohort gathering. We host it in Granite Falls, right at the Yes House, so that they can get to know some of the projects that feed us that we've been working on, and can learn from and connect with others in our Granite Falls community. And then we've Courtney and I, as the team, we go visit them in their communities to get to know their places and their community, because that's a must when
Yeah.
we're working with them for 2 years. Because otherwise, yeah, we just need to know the context, the place, as we work with them really closely. And we then, after that, we have monthly check-ins. So every month we meet with all 10 cohort teams, and we don't have a set of like a curriculum or anything. We we uh we are the path is really developed by them. So whatever they come up with as challenges, things that they're going through, we respond to that. So we're very responsive in whatever phase that they're in. That's the majority. So we actually, like, if they're like, we don't know how to do this one thing and we don't have it, well, we're going to create it or find it somewhere for them. So we're more of a response, like that responsive type. And we do provide some cohort specific workshops where we invite guest speakers. We usually do that in the winter time when they have more time, because they're very busy right in the summer and warmer months. And we have, just for them, like a guest speaker come in so that they can like get together and ask questions and things. And again, they drive that too. So we actually ask them, like, what do you want to know more about? Is it around community engagement? Do you want to know more around funding, capital campaigns, renovation, like how to budget? I mean, it runs everywhere. Legal, accounting, because it's not just like, oh, how do we, you know, fundraise or renovate? It's everything around, like a lot of our orgs are nonprofits, but some are businesses or a mix. And so there's a lot of questions around like systems and how to operate, job descriptions, you name it, right? We go through all of that with them in terms of like uh, helping them and supporting them through the next 2 years. And then we'll have this cohort, we actually have an Activate Rural Summit planned for next year that will bring both cohorts together,
Oh, cool.
which we're really excited about. And we're just like right now developing the details as where it's going to be and all of that. And then we also have a retreat at the end of our 2 years together. So everybody gets to come back together and have more of a retreat feel. So it's like hopefully more relaxing, but we could get to come together and reflect on the past 2 years together. So those are the three in person. And then, of course, they receive the unrestricted grant funding that all this is funded through the Mellon Foundation. That's been generously supporting the Activate Rural program. And yeah, I think that's Courtney. Am I missing any other? I think those are all the things that we provide. Yeah.
I love how responsive it is and flexible. You've chosen a 2 year
hmm
uh, you know progression. Tell me a little bit about why 2 years, why not a year. A lot of project oriented sort of funding will sort of be provided for somebody for I mean there are multi-year grants, but a 2 year progression. Tell me a little bit about why the 2 years.
Yeah. So at first, when we came up with it, I was like, all right, we're just going to try it. Hopefully for 2 years is going to work. I personally felt, and it was confirmed through the first cohort, that it takes up to a year, really, for the groups and teams to really figure out like what they want to do, what's the there's a lot of planning that goes. And one of the things that we do as a part of the application is we do not ask for their plan or for their budget
Oh wow, okay.
because they don't we ask for that after they actually know they get it because we don't want to waste their time thinking, like putting too much into the planning and budgeting for something that they may not get. And so we do that with them. Like that's what we're doing right now. We go with them to provide a roadmap. We work with closely with them, helping that fill out this document, and then a budget for how they're going to spend the money. Even it's unrestricted, but we just, to help them think through. They have a lot of questions like, hey, does this look good? Is this the right how to budget and everything? And so that's a part of our learning process with them and our planning. And then the second year is usually when really things get going. Some groups, though, they start off right away, right? It really varies depending on the group. That's another reason we made it 2 years, is because every group is so different. We can't, again, it just can't be this perfect, like, what 1 year, and then we have this. So we didn't want to have teams fit a mold that we put out there. So 2 years for us felt like it added enough flexibility and really enough time for us to build trust with each of the groups because it takes, at least takes 2 years, right? And even the previous cohort, we still talk to them because I feel like we've gotten really close over those 2 years and
I was
we
going to
get,
ask that. Yeah, if you keep
yeah, we
in touch.
do.
Yeah,
And for myself, and I know that Activate and even DOPT, we get very invested in their projects and wanting, to see them succeed and whatnot. And we don't want to make this feel like a short-term relationship. We want it to be a long-term relationship. And so we really feel that it needs at least 2 years of really focused work and relationship building to make that happen for that long-term impact.
that's
And we
great.
call it, and I just want to say, we also call it a learning lab because, and that's on purpose, is because we are the OPT and us, Activate Rural team, is learning alongside them. Because we say up front, like, we don't have all the answers and we do not know.
Yeah,
Because, like, again, every project's so different. And the number of challenges, I'm like, what? And especially as we go into the Dakotas and Montana, different states, and all the yeah, how different each of those communities are. So it's a lot of us learning as well. And we make it clear like it's a back and forth learning between our organization and theirs.
yeah. I love this on lots of levels. One of the things that I've really appreciated about um, the work that DOPT has been doing of late to really, I think, challenge funders and funding and how it operates. And so often, right, we're supposed to have the answers uh,
hmm
turn into a project and request funding. Um, and that seems really absurd right now in the current moment, as well as I think in any particular unique community, right, that is going to have its own specific circumstances. I think, yeah, the orientation of it is super smart. Courtney, I think along those lines of thinking about funders and funding, one of the things that is a big focus of the program that I think is really important is you talk a lot about how the funds are leveraged. So every dollar, there's a $4.30 of additional investment that is happening in the projects beyond the grant money. And you talked about the validity that being in a program like this provides an organization, maybe when they walk into a town council meeting or county commissioner meeting, or go meet with other potential funders or participants. Um, so speak to me a little bit of why that is so important, and going a little bit further in what you were saying in terms of the validity this provides.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I can speak from my perspective in Spring Grove, where we had the funding to do some experiments and try out different things, and that led to several partnerships in the community that leveraged more funding. And ultimately, one of our team members ended up buying, one of the artists on the team ended up buying the cinema and is now his personal entrepreneurial journey, which is really cool. And I can talk about all the effects of having one more business owner and one more community member in a small town like that. It just creates ripples effects. But yeah, I mean, we were able to leverage our work at the cinema to get a $50,000 grant for the school to do new programming around entrepreneurship and getting the students out into the community, building out the top level of the cinema to create kind of a student union gaming lab, that then led to other investments in the community, where the telecommunications cooperative that originally owned the theater invested in the school to create a new gaming league for the students there. We were able to get some funding to start a senior tech hub so that we could have a student in the theater able during open hours to be able to have folks come in and say, can you help me set up my iPad, or how do I log into my Libby account or whatever? And so that was another cool ripple. The entrepreneur that I mentioned who bought the cinema, they received a loan from our Economic Development Authority, and as well as outside investment. They did kind of like a friends and family round, and so they were able to get loans, to get money. And I do think that part of it was the work that we did, like as the Activate Rural program. We wrote a business plan for the cinema. We looked at different organizational structures to create bylaws for a nonprofit arm, and look a little bit more at the maintenance of the building to really understand what are the costs moving forward. And so a lot of that, like planning and conversations, really helped to make that transition. And it wasn't all perfect, right? It wasn't all easy and simple, and now it's just, but it definitely helped us to like be able to make that case and move forward, and not only give the community the confidence in that new step, but also the entrepreneur themselves. So
Yeah, the case making is so important. I mean, we're just talking about making a case to receive the funds,
yeah.
but obviously, you all stepping in, helping identify, what is the story to tell here? What are we building towards? What is going to be valuable to certain constituents within the community? All of that makes so much sense. I want to I want to talk a little bit about the cohorts themselves, and I was wondering, is there a project, and maybe I'll kind of open this up to both of you. Is there a project from either cohort that has surprised you? Something that ended up being more ambitious or more complicated or more community defining than you expected it to going in?
I feel like I know what Sarina is going to say, in that they're all so different, and they're
Yeah.
Yes, that
all
is what I was
so
gonna.
they're all so surprising and exciting in their own way. And like we welcome the pivots. And so I'm trying to even like get in the mindset of like what would be surprising, because we expect
By design,
surprises.
it's surprising. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And And yeah, so Serena, I'd love to hear what you have to
That's
say about that.
that's like you're right, Courtney. That is exactly what we've had a lot of hours in the car, so we basically now know when we're driving to visit everybody. It has, yes, because the program is designed to expect lots of changes. And I tell this to each cohort. I'm like, you will put this on paper and it will change completely by the time the 2 years are up. And that was very true for, I'd say, all the projects. And I'm not kidding when I say that. Like, so they put in an application. They think one group up on the Iron Range thought they were going to activate a library space into a youth and arts and creative space for their youth. And that did not happen. And they ended up, the 2 years were a journey of activating many spaces in their community because initially the library was like a no. For some reason, there was a miscommunication there. So they had to go to other places. But then that just this past year, I heard back from them because I'm still connected. And she's saying they were back at the library after, this whole back and forth within other spaces. They ended up even in a nursing home in the beautiful space there. And they're like, I guess we have to be here. But then now the library invited them back. And it's because they saw the
Ah,
impact that they were having. And this group was consistent. Every month they had artist workshop, an event of some sort, bringing people together. And the library, I think, was seeing how this group was really there was a demand for that in their
mm,
community,
mm,
and they actually got invited back after the whole 2+ years. And so that's one example, and I would have it for every single project of how they thought they were going to go this one path, and within the 2 years, so many, because they're working with community, right? Like so many things can happen. And a lot of the projects from the first cohort actually were about to have a building or about to lease a space. So there's more uncertainty there. And that was actually an intention of ours, is to be like, let's go, like, let's see where some of these groups, their different paths will take. Because there's a lot of learning there, right? When there's like uncertainty and you're like, okay, where are they going to, what's going to happen? And sometimes, the support is what is most needed, right? In those times of like, okay, and so, like one project, because they received this, that's when they decided, okay, I can purchase this building and make this. Like Minnesota Arts in Redwood Falls, they purchased their building, a month or two after being accepted into the Activate Rural cohort. And it's because, and they said the reason they took that leap is because they're a part of this cohort. And it's a native owned, native led art space, art gallery space within a community of 5,000. And that's the first of that type of space in that community. And so things like that, like it takes that, if we're on the journey with them, it's, we're helping alleviate some of that fear and, risk. Even it is risky, right? No matter what. But, and even the like journeys that they're going on, it's just so unpredictable. And they always ask, like, are we doing this right? Is this what you expected of us? I'm like, the number of times I say, I have no expectations. I have no idea where.
mm.
That's what excites me though. I
Yeah.
love it. I just love you have no I like that's my I love going on these journeys with them and like going and hearing, the monthly check-in. What happened? What, like, oh, we're going this way. And I just want them to know like that's okay to do. Like you need to pivot, you need to make changes, and that's just like what life is with these different projects.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that in many ways it's just inspiration to start walking, it's just to start
Yeah.
moving. And, and I think you know, the, the mentorship and the peer components of this are huge. Is a big takeaway for me in hearing this. So I'm on the board of the Mid Atlantic Arts Foundation, and right now there's consideration and talk about how their funding could maybe serve rural communities in the Mid Atlantic in a more strategic way. And I think maybe I'll ask this of both of you as we wrap up. um, what would be your recommendations to the Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation in regards to um, effectively launching a program such as this? Like, what is most important, maybe for them to hear, either in regards to why it should be done the way that it's being done, um, maybe what these communities specifically need, right, that are smaller that they may not be, that they don't receive because they're not in a major market. But if you would share a little bit of advice that you might give the Mid Atlantic Arts Foundation as they consider funding projects in this area.
Yeah. Without knowing what they already do in terms of funding and whatnot, I would highly recommend not expecting, like what you already said, that applicants have all the answers. So making the application process as easy as possible, especially for rural communities. A lot of the groups we work with are volunteers. Like they have day jobs, they have other things they're doing, and they're really passionate about their communities and they're trying to make something happen. So they don't have time to sit and like write this really long application, do the whole budget for a project they may not even get funding for. Like I don't know that when funders ask for that, I understand if it's like for really large amounts, but especially if it's like for these, 25, 50, 75,000, or maybe whatever the amount is, if it's smaller amounts of money, being flexible and that asking them to submit a budget after they have been awarded the funding, I think is a lot more um, a kind way to do that, and a lot more making it more accessible for more rural communities to apply. And we've had community like applicants that said, "This is all you need? Are you sure? Like, do you not need anything else?" We're like, "No, we're good. Like, we just need you to answer the." I think we just had like 3 or 4 narrative questions just to tell about themselves and about their organization and the people. We want to know about the people because we have to work with the people, right? Um, and we do it an interview process too. So that helps us because we have to work closely with them. So if a foundation is not, I don't know if they're not doing like a cohort experience, but um, that I think is really nice, an opportunity for applicants to verbally tell them
Yeah, I
and
love
like
that.
show their passion. I think that's been really different because it really is different from what they write on paper. They may not be great at writing an application, but they can, talk to you about their project really well. And you could tell how passionate they are and how well a team works and everything just from that interaction. And
I
then
love it.
unrestricted funding. I'm always going to be
Yeah.
just do not put parameters on your funding, and they always use it to the best use. It's amazing. Like, don't put, yeah, parameters on your.
One thing I love about the construction though you have though is that it is unrestricted, but then as a part of the process, they're budgeting it.
Yeah.
So I love that too because I think it because sometimes that is about accountability, right, to the dollars and et cetera, et cetera. So there's still an accountability to the dollars, but you're allowing them to use those dollars in the way that's most effective and is going to be most beneficial to their particular set of circumstances after they've gone through, some education and some conversation and discussion that's being guided. So I think it's super smart. And I would say, for a foundation to kind of hear, hey, listen, you can have both things. You can still have this accountability to the funds, but in a way that is really unique and tailored to the particular project. Courtney, how about for you? What would you share?
One thing that I wanted to share is that we received almost 130 applications for the Activate Rural
Mm.
program. So we know that there is a need, at least in the upper Midwest and Mountain West. Like that process alone was really eye-opening, and I think I will always thank the people who are applying for the work that they're doing and their generosity and sharing their stories with us, because that also helps us tell the story to funders of like there is a huge need here. And there's a lot of things that we saw overlapping. There's a lot of needs around municipal spaces like city halls, libraries, parks, that sort of thing. a lot of former buildings that might need a new purpose, like a church that doesn't have a congregation anymore, a storefront that has been empty. And so we saw a lot of overlap. And so I think if other regions of the country are looking at ways to support creative gathering places, like really honing in on what the needs are in your region and being really intentional about what support you can provide. The thing that I love about Activate Rural is that we are so specific to creative gathering places. Like we got a lot of cool applications from parks, like parks projects and whatever, but we know that a building can really bring some magic to the community, and also there's a lot of important like economic and community development ripples from that. And so we're able to be really strategic and really intentional about that. And so I think that's where we can offer the greatest return on investment is because we're able to help with not only like, here, apply for this grant or do this program, but here's how you fix the HVAC system, or here's where you look up the insurance issues and those types of things that can be really intimidating, but really make a move for those folks doing the work.
That's great. That's great. Well, that's really helpful, and I am going to carry that conversation forward. For sure. Well, I'm really excited in the coming months to feature some of these projects and teams that are there in the Midwest and the work that you all do. This is really inspiring. I want to thank you too. I mean, this is a time where a lot is shifting and changing in the sector. And I think we can actually learn a lot from rural communities and adaptation and all that you all are doing. Sarina, share where folks can find information about the Activate Rural Learning Lab.
Yeah, so if you go to publictransformation.org, under our work, you'll see Activate Rural, or do the hashtag thing and put in Activate Rural. Or you can just find it on our website too. And we have a lot of different spaces there in terms of you can learn more about the Learning Lab. We have the resource hub there. All the recordings of our past workshops are available for download. We also have the Activate Rural Atlas from the first cohort available for download, free. And it actually shares a lot of the stories from the previous cohort. And we'll be creating another atlas for the next cohort over the next year. And then we also have, we should mention the coaching sessions. So we can, if there are communities out there or groups that are working on developing a creative gathering place in their community, you can schedule a time to talk with Courtney and I on our coaching sessions.
And so that's anywhere in the country, right? Anywhere in the country.
That is available.
That's fantastic.
Yep. That's fantastic. Anywhere in the country, and it's free. We don't charge to talk to you about your project.
That is awesome. That is really, truly awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Sarina, Courtney, thank you so much for this, and I really appreciate it. I'll make sure to leave in the podcast notes links to everything. And please, if you're dreaming of a project, you've got to take advantage of the coaching. That's phenomenal. Courtney, Sarina, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all the work you do.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Small Town Big Arts. Remember to rate and review us and share with your friends. To learn more, visit us at smalltownbigarts.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Jeffrey Kirshner.